Welcome to another edition of the It's Cavalier podcast. It's your boy Mack. Tonight, Paolo Banchero and the Orlando Magic came to town to take on our Cleveland Cavaliers. We already know Orlando came into tonight hot on the heels of a loss to the Brooklyn Nets, but winners of their 9 of their last 10 games overall. And make no mistake about it, they have been better than expected this season. You got to give them credit. All credit is due to that team. They entered tonight third in the East at 14-6 and will play the Cavaliers twice within a 5-day span. So we got to see this team again in just a couple of days. Cleveland, on the other hand, conversely, entered tonight all the way down at the 8th spot in the East at 11-9, and we're fresh off of barely making it out alive against the Detroit Pistons. So this game represented a pretty good opportunity for the Cavs to put together a solid effort from start to finish, which I felt like they did against a pretty damn good opponent in the Orlando Magic. Now, I was expecting a low-scoring affair than usual, considering that both Orlando and Cleveland boast a top 10 defensive rating. Orlando at 3rd with a rating of 109.3 and Cleveland at 8th with 111.3. And it wasn't totally a low-scoring affair, but we came away with a 121-111 victory at the end of it all. So I'm still feeling pretty good, pretty damn good. Cleveland held up their end of the bargain, right? They held Orlando to 8.7% from three-point distance. Yes, you heard that right. The Magic shot below 10% from distance. And, you know, they overall on the night, they shot 49% from the field. But for every run that Orlando went on, Cleveland seemed to have an answer. And you absolutely love that. And let's just dig in a little bit here, a little bit deeper. The Magic, as we all know, deploy one of the league's tallest starting lineups with no one below 6'5" and 3 players standing at 6'10". Look, we all know Cleveland has had its fair share of struggles with taller starting units. You guys like to talk about that all the time. Talking about the smallish backcourt and whatnot. And it comes with the territory, right? When starting in an undersized backcourt, in an undersized small forward, or at least what is typically considered an undersized small forward in Mack Strus, who doesn't necessarily play that way. But tonight, we didn't really seem to have that big of an issue with it. They attacked Orlando off the dribble. They pulled up on them. They got out in transition. And the best part about all of that is it started with the backcourt, right? Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland combined for 61 total points tonight. Donovan himself dropped 15 in the first quarter alone and would finish tonight with 35 huge points. In my opinion, it's safe to say that the shot is back. Prior to tonight's victory, Donovan had completed just 8 of his 36 total triples over his last 5 games. That's just 22.2%, y'all. That cannot be discounted at all. The shot is back. Tonight, he would shoot 5 of 10 from the three-point line and taking some of those shots that we have become accustomed to over this last season or so, right? Just kind of walking it up, pulling up, doesn't matter who's in front of them, just feeling confident and letting it fly. And more often than not, it was cash money tonight. Yeah, absolutely loved him getting back in the swing of things. And when that guy is on, good luck beating the Cavs. It wasn't just his scoring that was present, though. Mitchell was throwing some dimes out there, especially to the bigs. And I think that's been one of the biggest complaints about Donovan Mitchell's time here is like Donovan not looking to get his teammates involved, which to me is a little bit overblown because I honestly do feel like Donovan does look to move the ball. It may not be DG level. He's not an elite playmaker, but he's certainly above average. Love it. Absolutely love it. Donovan Mitchell, when that dude is on, like I said, not too many teams can beat the Cavs. And it should be noted that this big game for him ain't exactly coming against a bad team, right? It's Orlando. They're third in the East right now, and again, had won 9 of their last 10 games. They are pretty damn good. As Dr. Claus 77 says down here, that first half was nuts. Worst shooting from 3, not the Cavs I've seen in a while. Yeah, we have not seen that. We have not seen that tonight. Tom K says DG looking like DG. Yeah, we're gonna get to him. No fucking turnovers. Well, if you count the 8-second violation, but it didn't go on him, so we won't count it. Bleacher Report didn't count it. So I'm not going to give it to him. If Bleacher Report's not giving it to him, damn it, I'm not giving it to him. So no turnovers for DG on the night. That hasn't happened in quite some time. And again, speaking of Darius Garland, his ability to calmly and decisively dissect Orlando's defense was crucial tonight. It was critical because Orlando, again, they are a very highly rated defense out there. They, for a solid portion of this still very young season, Orlando occupied that number 1 spot in terms of defensive rating, and they're third right now, as I mentioned before. They're pretty damn put together from a defensive standpoint, but Darius was able to dissect them like you used to do in high school, right? You used to dissect some of the animals, whether it be a frog, something like that. Sorry if I brought up any painful memories. I know I had some. He was much more careful with the ball. And we didn't see any of the head scratching turnovers that we've seen him committing lately. He was very, very effective with that basketball tonight. And we all know that when he's playing well, it's not just Donovan Mitchell. When Darius Garland is playing well, the Cavs as a whole tend to kind of follow suit. And that's exactly what happened tonight. That's exactly what happened. He came into tonight averaging 4.3 turnovers per game, and outside again of that 8-second violation, which I believe was counted as a team turnover rather than a player turnover. DG had 0 in the first half and 0 all game, right? That's something that you absolutely love to see, especially considering that he's started the season turning the ball over at an alarming rate. So him taking care of that basketball and not making some of those questionable decisions, whilst also doing a little bit of everything else out there, that's usually going to lead to the Cavs having a shot to win, if not winning the game altogether. The Magic, let's talk about them for just a second. They missed their first 12 threes. And again, they shot below 10%, but they missed their first 12 altogether. They didn't make their first 3 until around the 7-minute mark in the third quarter. And it's not like they attempt many per game. I do feel the need to clarify that. Orlando only attempts 30 a night, which is 28th out of the 30 NBA teams. They're actually ranked higher in 3-point percentage at 35.4%. Than the Cavs. But again, just finished 2 of 23 from distance on the night. 8.7%. You absolutely love that. You live with that 9 times out of 10. That's got to be some kind of record this season. I don't know what I need to go back and check, but I could really honestly feel like that might be the lowest 3-point percentage the Cavs have held a team to all season. And tonight, prior to tonight, Orlando came into the game ranked second in second chance points, scoring 17.2 points per game that way. And, for me, the funny part when I was doing a little bit of research on this is that they actually, when you hear that, like when you hear the fact that they rank second in second chance points, you would think that they grab an absurd amount of offensive rebounds, but that isn't necessarily the case. They rank 11th in offensive rebounds, which again, that seems crazy to me. They must be scoring very efficiently when they do get those second chance opportunities. When they do get those offensive rebounds, they must be putting them back at a very high rate. Conversely, Cleveland, man, we shot the lights out tonight, going 14 to 34 from range. That is 41.2%. And everybody got involved, man, from Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell to Mack Strus, who, again, we'll talk about just a minute, and George Niang, man. And even throw Dean Wade in there, it's so fucking good to have Dean Wade back, because playing a team like the Magic, who are tall out there, you need bigger bodies out there, especially when you're talking about the fact that Cleveland employs such a small backcourt, such an undersized small forward in Max Strus. To be able to throw another big body out there in Dean Wade, that's absolutely helpful. Dean, in his 14 minutes, he came back and gave 8 points and 5 rebounds and was 2 of 5 from deep. Tom K says down here, tell me again how Dean Wade does not contribute, need his size and rebounding and occasional 3-point makes. Couldn't agree more. Tom, I know we've been in agreement about this for a long time in regards to Dean Wade. For the people who want him like benched or don't understand necessarily the value of what he brings to the table, in some regards, it's like Isaac Okoro, right? Like some of what he provides is not going to be sexy out there, right? It's not going to be high point totals. It's not going to be a high amount of 3-point makes. It's going to be the defense. It's going to be the rebounding. It is going to be the occasional 3. That's what Dean Wade does for you. And he does it at a position that is pretty vital to have in that 3-4 spot, especially off the bench for the Cavs. That's basically what it boils down to. And having him out there in a matchup specifically against a taller team, that's where you can really truly see his value at, right? This is the type of matchup where JB kind of had to go to Dean, especially considering that he's healthy now. You want to put him out there, especially when you don't have the likes of Caris LeVert healthy right now. So you need a bigger body out there, a guy capable of not only rebounding the basketball, but playing some pretty damn good perimeter and interior defense, and who can, occasionally knock down the 3-point shot. Now, I know that, just knocking down 2 of 5, that doesn't sound absurdly great or anything, but it's still 40%. And it is something that the defense does tend to have to respect, his ability to knock them down. And for me, having him out there, that just goes to show, right, what JB has at his disposal in terms of matchups and trying to use them correctly. Tom also says Niang and Strus, they are getting into form too. Yeah, Strus has kind of been in form from the jump, right? He's had some games where he's had some head scratchers in regards to some of the 3-point shooting where he hasn't knocked down a whole bunch of them. But even in nights where his shot isn't falling, Strus is like filling up the stat sheet, and he continues to fucking do that, right? He did it again tonight. 17 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, 5 of 10 from the field, 4 of 8 from 3-point line, and did have a steal out there. Like, goddamn, like we got one of the bargains of this offseason. Again, if you are still somebody out there looking at his contract and thinking to yourself, we overpaid, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, respectfully, because this dude, he's been everything we bargained for and more. He's been as advertised. He is doing things that nobody quite thought that he would be able to bring to the table upon acquiring him. I say this shit every single pod, but I mean, it's being ingrained into my head because he continues to do it on a game-to-game basis. It's not like he's being inconsistent with it either. His effort level, his intensity, his consistency, It's there from game to game. He plays, I think I said this a couple of pods ago, but the intensity that motherfucker plays with, I don't know if any other Cavalier has it. And that's like with Donovan Mitchell, that's with Darius Garland, that's with guys like Isaac Okoro out there. I easily believe that Max Strus plays with an intensity that coming from that Miami system that maybe nobody can match. Sven Reek, to kind of shift gears again, says best DG game this season, no doubt. Look, at any game where DG doesn't turn the ball over, and again, we're not counting that 8-second violation in the first half against him. Bleacher Report didn't, so I'm not giving it to him. Anytime you can walk out of a game with DG scoring 20 plus and turn the ball over 0 times, should be a win, right? And that's in addition to the playmaking out there. DG, man, some of the dimes that he threw tonight to Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen, oh my gosh, that dude, when he is on, this Cavs team is a very tough team to stop. And there's a large contingent of people out there that believe that when we run the offense through DG as opposed to through Donovan Mitchell, that this team is in a better position. And there were definitely moments in tonight's game where you could clearly see, hey, DG should be the leader of the pack here. And that's not to say that he isn't, but there are definitely games in which he concedes that number one status to Donovan Mitchell, right? And sometimes justifiably so, because Donovan, when he gets on one of his heaters, much like he was on tonight, you kind of just have to give him the ball and let him cook. And it's been very rare in this past season, and can I say season and a half? No, not really. Season and a quarter. It's been very rare since this pairing has come together that both of them have performed, at an elite level in the same game. Just don't see it happen too often, and especially against a really good opponent like we did tonight against the Orlando Magic. So this is just a performance tonight to me that if you can replicate this, more often than not over the course of the season, the Cavs are going to be in really good shape because not only did those two have it going on, the pieces around them performed quite well tonight as well. Evan Mobley, again, who we just spoke about, 16 points, 5 rebounds, 8 of 12 from the field overall, had a pretty nice block tonight. And for me, Evan Mobley, the story remains the same. Like, if you believe that he hasn't developed at all, I just don't quite know what to tell you. Some of what he has developed, some of the progression that he's made, it's not always going to show up in the stat sheet, especially from an offensive standpoint. But basically, Evan Mobley can sleepwalk his way to a very efficient 16 points. That's basically what I have arrived at with him. Is he taken, or has he taken the step, the leap, the fabled leap that everybody is wanting him to from an offensive standpoint? No, it hasn't necessarily happened. The ability to space the floor, that hasn't happened, but he is playing more aggressive out there. He is starting to take more of those mid-range jumpers that we really feel like he could do a ton more of. Tom K says Mobley missed a few layups, but nice game too. Yeah. I mean, even in games where he's not totally lighting up the stat sheet with a ton of rebounds or putting up a ton of points, his impact on the game is clearly felt. His work on Paolo in the first half, some damn good stuff. Some damn good stuff. And as Tom also points down there, considering he had 4 or 5 fouls in the second half, yeah, whole damn team felt like they were in foul trouble. Seriously, whole damn team. Just to kind of call it out real quick, Evan Mobley finished with 5 fouls. Max Strus finished with 5 fouls. Jarrett Allen finished with 5 fouls. Tristan Thompson even had a foul out there. George Niang, 4 fouls. Dean Wade, 2 fouls. A lot of fucking fouls out there. Ridiculous. And to that point, that just makes me feel like I should take a look at the free throw disparity overall. Cleveland shot 75% from the free throw line, which is higher than Orlando's 73%. But the thing that sticks out here, obviously, is the 3 free throw line disparity. Orlando took 37 total attempts to Cleveland's 20. Officiating continues to just amaze me this season. It's like, what the fuck are you guys doing out here? Some of these calls, they're questionable. Some of them are borderline. Some of them are clear non-fouls. I just don't get it. Cleveland just doesn't have a good whistle. I'm going to stop harping on that too much because it just happens every damn game. Noah Heritage says, I feel like you can only have so much of an offensive jump when you're the third option on a team. I've loved what I've seen from him this season. You are absolutely 100% true. When Donovan Mitchell's taking over 20 plus shots per game and DG's taking like, I don't know, 17 or 18 per game himself, what does that leave a player like Evan Mobley with? Maybe, 11 to 12 shot attempts per game. I haven't looked at his actual free throw attempts that he's taken on the season in quite some time, but I can guarantee you right now, if I were to go check, it's not necessarily anything that is out of the ordinary for a third option. It's just the case, and that is perfectly fine. Evan Mobley is not going to be a guy that's going to get those touches over either of those two right now, and that's okay. Yeah, just looking at his third year stats, he's taken 11.8 field goal attempts per game. That's completely normal for a third option. Completely normal. I can't really speak to anything else out there. Tune in, ask what happened with Allen. I saw him walk off the court. I didn't get a thorough explanation of why he walked off the court. He did finish the game with 5 fouls. I don't know if it was frustration. I don't know if it was an injury, but on the night, he only played 19 minutes. Not sure. Maybe you guys can clarify that in the comments for me if you're watching JB's post game or any of the other post game interviews. But I don't know. I'm not certain, so I can't really answer that. Tom K says JB challenged twice and won both, though. Progress. Hallelujah. Yes. One of the biggest knocks on JB is knowing when and when not to challenge calls, right? I don't know. For me, it's just like, as much as we harp on foul calls here and times when JB should challenge certain situations, it's a slippery slope. It's a tough thing to do. If he calls the challenge and he loses it, then people are fucking pissed off at him. JB, why did you challenge that? You shouldn't have challenged that. When JB challenges something and he wins it, you're a hero. But I don't know. It's a gift and a curse. So I'm glad that it worked out in his favor tonight. Sven Reek Gaming says, I thought he had 6 fouls. I don't know. Sometimes when you're looking at the box score stats for some of these games, it's not always giving you the correct numbers yet, because Bleacher Report lists his personal fouls at 5, and I don't think he fouled out. I think he just exited. So, but if somebody can provide clarity to me for that, I'd love to hear it. Talking and Grubbing Media says the Cavs don't have the respect of the league or the ref, so that's why they get and don't get the calls. Yeah, I mean, it's a valid point. I get it, but a 17 free throw difference here, that's insane to me. Orlando taking 37, Cleveland taking 20. Just crazy. And that continues to feel like a common occurrence. I don't know. Insane. When I look up and down this roster, though, when these guys can continue to put, if they can rather continue to put solid efforts together in these same games, this is a team that is, I'm not going to say damn near unbeatable, but it's a very tough team to beat. When you have all of these guys playing very well out there, and that includes some of the reserves, right, who I haven't kind of talked about a lot tonight, and people like George Niang, who has been shooting very, very fucking good since, over these last couple of games. I had the stats pulled up here. I'm going to take some time to pull them up. But George Niang coming into this season, I think many people, they were expecting a certain level of play from him, considering he had entered the year fresh off of 5 straight seasons in which he'd shot 40 plus % or better from 3-point range. And he got off to an atrocious start. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. He got off to an atrocious start to begin the season. But as of late, the motherfucker has turned things on. Like when you really look at what he's been able to do over his last 10 games, which does include tonight, he's given the Cavs 10.7 points, 4.4 rebounds, which is, I continue to say and speak about the rebounds for him. That is a career high from him, if I'm not mistaken. But over his last 10 games overall, Niang is shooting 48.2% from the field and 42.2% from 3-point distance on pretty decent volume, about 4.5 attempts per game. definitely worth the money that we paid him for. And, at a certain point, I was starting to question whether or not, playing him was really helping the Cavs, because it really felt to be really kind of felt like a detriment to the Cavs to have his minutes out there at certain times, because the shot just was not falling, and he's not a no defender or anything like that. But now that it is falling, he's looking pretty damn good out there. Overall on the season, due to that atrocious start, he's just at 34.8%, but it's steadily rising. And I make no mistake, I really honestly feel like that is going to be the case all season. I would not be surprised at all by the end of the season if he is averaging near 40%. Due to that start, he may not get there just because the volume is not going to be there all the time, depending upon the minutes that he's given. But I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if he got close to it, somewhere around 38, 39%. That 40 plus percent or better streak might end, but as long as the dude is shooting like 37, 38% on really good volume, I'll take it, especially off that Cavalier bench where you clearly needed to reproduce some of the production that Kevin Love vacated upon his departure, in the buyout market last season. Dwayne Lowry says they call him the minivan for a reason. Takes a while for him to get started. I love that. I created a video about Niang the other day, and I think somebody said something along the same lines. Yeah, just took him a minute to get going, but now that now that the Cavs are kind of returning to a semblance of full strength, Niang is looked at home. Just getting a high minute total out there from game to game. It's not uncommon to see him play anywhere between 24 to 28 minutes, but justifiably so for this Cavs team. And JB, for what it's worth, he continues to go with kind of like these shorter rotations. So Niang is always going to get a high amount of minutes. But one of the things in speaking to that I kind of liked tonight was the fact that he gave Tristan Thompson some run out there. And yes, some of that was by necessity because Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen, even Niang to a degree, were experiencing some foul trouble. So you kind of had no other option but to turn to Tristan Thompson. But in those minutes, as Double T has continued to do in his spot appearance, he goes out there and he's impactful right away. He had a very nice block on Paolo Banchero today. Love it. Absolutely love it. He's one of those guys that in small doses can give you, as Tom K says down here, some edge and some attitude. Yeah. You see Niang out there chirping at guys, talking to the refs, getting technical fouls, things of that nature. Not taking shit. Those two guys, they're not going to take any shit. And the Cavs kind of needed that, right? They, after trying to beat those soft allegations after that New York Knicks series, that's a tough thing to do, right? Once the league or players around the league or fans around the league have branded you soft, that's a tough notion to dismiss. It's honestly something that I'm sure was very frustrating and a point of emphasis coming into this season, is to kind of prove that the Cavs can be physical with teams. They can get gritty. They can play with an attitude. They can play with an edge. And I think bringing in a player like Niang, that's an underrated component of what he brings to the table. Like, it's not just the spacing. It's not just the simple fact that the guy can knock down 3-point shots. It's the fact that he will go out there and let you know about it too. He'll chirp at you. And the Cavs needed that. And then with Tristan Thompson, he not only adds depth at the 5, but he also adds some attitude and edge out there, something the Cavs bigs and Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen just do not innately seem to have. So I love those additions. Tune In Sports says, just got to accept not seeing CPJ. I guess especially when LeVert comes back, it is what it is. It's tough, man. And for me, as much as we want the undrafted talent that is Craig Porter Jr. to shine early on in this season, it still makes sense to bring him along slowly when the team is at full strength. It's good to know that you can turn to him in times of need, but you have to play your best players out there. And sometimes I think I heard JB say this the other day too, in reference to not playing like too small, and especially on a team that already features a backcourt that's undersized. you don't want to really play 3 guard lineups more than you have to. And when you have Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell healthy, when you have Caris LeVert healthy, you're probably not going to elect to have any one of those guys be bumped out of the rotation, obviously, or to concede minutes to an undrafted rookie. It's just not going to happen, especially if you factor in the fact that Isaac Okoro is also playing pretty well, and he is going to get minutes at the 2 guard and 3 as well. And that's not even mentioning Mack Strus's time out there, who in some lineups will see minutes as a 2. So putting Craig out there, it's a tall order. It's not something that I feel like fans should beat JB up about, but I do understand like wanting him to get out there. And for him, similar to Emoni Bates, what's got to happen is you just got to take advantage of the opportunities when they come your way. And Craig, for the most part, has done that. He's done that. The only part of Craig's game that I feel like is not necessarily not necessarily something that is above the level of concern is his 3-point shooting, like the perimeter shot. We've seen a semblance of it. We've seen him unafraid to take it, but it's not coming with enough volume to make you feel confident that he can offset what some of these other guys bring to the table. So that's just kind of where I'm at with Craig. Like it's a nice storyline to open the season. An undrafted talent comes in right away and looks like a top 10 pick. And he still very well might end up appearing in a good number of games for the Cavaliers. But one thing to also take into consideration is you kind of have to be strategic with what you're doing with his games. Because as we all know, two-way players are only allowed to appear in 50 NBA level games before you have to make a decision on them. So they have to kind of be smart in how they're doing that. And that's really all that I can say about Craig. I really and truly hope that he gets more and more opportunities as the season goes on. But just looking at JB's 8 to 9 man rotation, I just don't see a place for him. If he is going to see minutes, it would have to be because of an injury, or it will be because JB expands the rotation to 10 or 11 deep, which we know history suggests is just not going to happen, no matter how much pressure we put on him, right? At the end of the day, it's going to be your starting 5, and it'll be some variation of Isaac Okoro, Caris LeVert, George Niang, and then that 9th man is a toss-up depending upon what you need. It could be Dean Wade. It could be Tristan Thompson. It could be Craig Porter Jr. And this is all crazy to me, considering that we were really thinking that Ty Jerome was going to factor in here somewhere, but you haven't seen him because he's been injured. So, yeah, that's the only real scenarios we'll probably likely see Craig Porter Jr. in, short of wanting to just get the starters some rest. And I think overall, this is a great win. Again, they will play Orlando a second time or in about 4 or 5 days, right? Exactly. Tom K says, Ty who? Yeah. Tune In Sports says Ty Jerome's still on vacation. Yeah, he's still in the off season, right? Or still in the preseason. I think that's the last time we saw him. Did we see him? Did we see him against Brooklyn? I can't remember. I don't know. Been a while already. But yeah, it's feels like it's been that long. And circling back to what I was saying, Cleveland will take on Orlando in a very short period of time. Just kind of feels like this was a win that they can build off of, right? Especially going into a matchup against the Miami Heat on Friday. So I'm very much looking forward to both of these. Hopefully we have Caris LeVert back by then, but I don't know, man. I don't know. Miami, they traditionally play Cleveland very well. So I'm very much looking forward to both of these upcoming matchups. This rematch against Orlando and this matchup on Friday against Miami. And my voice is going out, so it's probably a good time to call it a night. Thanks, guys, for joining me. As always, tell you if you'd like to reach out to me, you can on itscavalier_pod on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and more. If you'd like to be added to the It's Cavalier Discord chat, you know what to do. Leave a rating, leave a review, send a screenshot of said review to itscavalier53@gmail.com, and I will send you an invite. That said, go Cavs. Have a good night.